Up and there's the seal for the great state of California, and we are taking California the morning recess. Gives us a chance to reset the dial, and we have been listening to the testimony most recently for Nicole Alvarez. Again, Nicole Alvarez, girlfriend of Dr. Murray's, child together, really setting a lot of foundation here of how they met and how she was excited to meet Michael Jackson. She was speechless and all that. Key, and we haven't even got to it yet, is the phone calls Dr. Murray made to her after Michael Jackson died. This is on June 25th. And probably even a bigger issue is the propofol that Dr. Murray is having sent to her apartment. So we're still going to get to that, and that, I'm sure, is coming up. We have our expert standing by, joining us once again to talk about this, Michael Barnes. He's an attorney and drug policy advisor. It's always good to get Michael's take, especially when propofol is such a key. Here also with us, Manny Aurora, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor. Guys, is Natisha with us as well? Not yet. We'll be checking in with Natisha Lance from Los Angeles as well in just a moment. Michael, let's start with you on this one. Putting on your attorney hat, a lot of foundation here as to who is Nicole Alvarez, and she's excited to meet Michael Jackson. What is relevant here as our viewers watch this, and what should we be tuning into here?
I think we need to look at the big picture here, and I think that the prosecutors are trying to establish the character of Conrad Murray in a way that doesn't necessarily make it an attack on his character, but he had a number of girlfriends.
Right.
We've seen this morning that they've been very pretty, they've been young, they've had very unique sort of exotic names, and he had one in every city. So that's a big thing. And then we can also take from this current girlfriend's demeanor that she's trying to be very defensive, trying to protect the man who she still lives with. And actually, we saw the prosecutors catch her in what was an apparent lie. She's now trying to cover up what she said previously to investigators under oath and ultimately backtracked on that lie. So this is fascinating. I'm enjoying this trial.
Right. Let me get Manny your take on this one. Is back Michael Barnes, attorney, also drug policy advisor. Michael, I think the prosecution scores a couple of points here. Michael, you with us?
Yes, I am.
A couple of points here. One, he's on the phone. I mean, you should be monitoring your patient closely. If you're giving him propofol, you shouldn't be on the phone with one of your girlfriends. And number two is this timeline. He's telling paramedics that Michael Jackson had only been down 1 minute at roughly 12:20, where here Michael Jackson could be in distress 25 minutes earlier.
You're absolutely right. The timeline is going to be the biggest issue for the defense attorneys in this case, because we have the timeline as Conrad Murray presented it in the initial investigation that he had with investigators. And we've learned now that those investigations were under oath, because that's what the case was with Nicole Alvarez when she spoke with them, and they called her out on that this morning. So it's going to be impossible for Conrad Murray to be able to come up with any legitimate, credible, reasonable defense without changing his story. And now, so what we're seeing is that the witnesses who are favoring the defense are saying, well, I don't remember, I forgot, a lot has happened since then. If Conrad Murray says that, it's going to be a big problem for him.
Got it. Manny, weigh in on this when you're talking about establishing that timeline for. So how do you if the prosecutor, you do want to tie that up, right? You want to prove Michael Jackson's in distress at 11:55.
Yes, I can answer Manny's question about what it all means. Is that it all boils down to these 2 minutes that Conrad Murray said that he had when he went to use the bathroom, and that's apparently what we're going to learn to be the time under the defense's theory that Michael Jackson got up and either drank propofol or somehow injected himself with it and managed to lie back in bed and neatly die in order, beyond the point of resuscitation, by the way, in order to fit these facts as Conrad Murray's defense team is trying to put them together. That 2 minute period is not going to work out for them. That's why the timeline is going to have to change in order for them to have any sort of reasonable doubt present in this case.
Got it. Okay, hey, let's head to Los Angeles. CNN producer Alan Duke joins us, just leaving the courtroom. Alan, give us a little bit of the color there as we heard how the defense spins it as they cross-examine her. Michael, weigh in on that. She's excited. Murray's showing off to the girlfriend that he's Jackson's doctor. Here, meet Michael Jackson.
To Manny's point, doctors and lawyers both have an obligation of confidentiality, not even to reveal who their clients are or patients are unless there's express permission. So this is not something that Conrad Murray should be doing without Michael Jackson's consent. And he's parading these girlfriends around to Michael Jackson's house. I love the term parade of girlfriends today in court. That is brilliant, and I think it's exactly what is going into the minds of the jurors now. But so he's using his relationship with Michael Jackson to get all these women in various cities. All all of this is pointing that Conrad Murray was very self-interested. So now we're seeing that he appears to be greedy, he appears to be lazy, and he is a player, as you said, Mike. This is great for the prosecution.
Right. Okay. With that, we'll take a quick break. Again, HLNTV.com/. Let's get Michael Barnes back in on that. Do you agree with that, Michael? Could it? Are you taking your eye off the ball if the prosecutors? That's what Manny's saying here.
I do agree with Manny in that they need to focus on the big picture, and bringing these medications into the home and not using the appropriate equipment is the real fact that it creates the negligence and the breach of the standard of care. But looking at these facts, the more and more that they can get these details out, so that Conrad Murray has to fit his story into what other people are saying, the more difficult it is to create a reasonable story that could create doubt in the minds of the jurors.
Once again, when you talk about what is coming up in Nicole Alvarez's testimony, two big things. 4 phone calls from Murray to her. This is after Michael Jackson's dead on the 25th. And as big or bigger is that he's having propofol shipped to her apartment.
Yes, I'm really eager to hear how that's going to work out, especially in light of the fact that Nicole is now trying to say she doesn't recall specific facts. But it's going to be interesting to see how both sides, prosecution and defense, deal with the propofol being shipped to the home. There are a lot of arguments that can be made on both sides, but we need to recall that federal investigators or the DEA, federal prosecutors and state prosecutors have not brought any drug-related charges against Conrad Murray, so presumably they didn't have enough evidence to believe that he breached any federal laws in that regard.
Okay, there's receipts for 7 packages. That's what the state wants to prove here. 7 packages going again to Nicole Alvarez's apartment here. Michael, I'll stay with you again since the drug policy advisor, that's your area of expertise. Help our viewers understand. To have propofol and to send it to somebody's apartment, is that not illegal to have this kind of drug just going around willy-nilly like that?
It's not necessarily when you think that Conrad Murray can justify it as his having lived there, but it's my understanding that Conrad Murray actually told the pharmacist that this was going to an address of his clinic in Los Angeles. And that, to me, establishes that he defrauded the pharmacist, that he created a plan, a scheme.
Michael, let me break in here. Forgive me, but we're back in court back in session. Let's go back to Los Angeles.
Alvarez, you were describing for us that during the months of April, May, and June, Conrad Murray was living at your apartment in Santa Monica, and he was providing regular, mostly nightly care for Mr. Jackson, according to the information that you had. Is that accurate?
Yes.
During that same time period, April, May, and June, were packages addressed to Conrad Murray delivered to your apartment?
Yes.
Did you have any advance notice from Conrad Murray that packages were going to be delivered in his absence?
In most cases, yes.
And what did he say to you?
That he was going to be receiving something, that if there was a knock at the door, that it was going to be a delivery, if I could retrieve it for him.
You live in an apartment, correct?
Yes.
Does that apartment have a locked lobby access, or can anyone simply go up to your door?
It's locked lobby access.
So you would have to be notified that there was a delivery, and then you would buzz them into the building, and they would be able to go to your front door?
I'm not sure how they get in, but they're able to come directly to the door without me giving them direct access.
Do you have a doorman?
No.
So did delivery people just end up at your front door and you don't know how they got into the building?
That's always the common practice for UPS or FedEx, yes.
So just those particular delivery people would have access, correct?
Yeah.
So
okay, key testimony here.
Dr.
Again,
Murray
Nicole
advised
Alvarez
you that
talking. The state wants to get out there. Actually, it's break time. Okay, so let's Let's talk about how key this testimony could be from Tim Lopez. Michael Barnes with us again, attorney, drug policy advisor. So let's take this in, Michael. Again, 15 liters of propofol, 80 vials of sedatives. Just your take on where the prosecution needs to go with this.
The prosecution needs to establish that Conrad Murray was effectively defrauding the pharmacist in saying that these orders of powerful medications were going to a clinic based in Los Angeles and not to the home of his girlfriend, not just for one particular patient. I expect that we'll hear from Tim Lopez that he, as a professionally licensed pharmacist, believed that he was shipping these medications to a physician who was using these in daily practice for multiple patients, in the thousands probably, and not just one.
Gotcha. Okay. Manny, let's talk about this. And again, laying this out here, I mean, it's got to be gold for the prosecution here on so many fronts. Again, if you're a jury, you're thinking, wait a minute, you had this stuff shipped to your girlfriend's apartment? A sedative that should be used in a hospital setting for major surgery?
Yes, it's totally shady. And one thing that I did notice, though, on these FedEx or UPS receipts today, when we were looking at them and the prosecution had them on the overhead, was that the address did say apartment number 404. So even if it were a licensed pharmacy technician, not necessarily a pharmacist, that might have been a reason for them to say, hey, wait a second, where is this place going? Because typically office suites are suite numbers or unit numbers, but not necessarily apartment numbers. It's more like an address for a home.
And Michael, I'll stay with you when you talk about, again, equally powerful in the opening statements from the prosecutors when they played the voice recording of Michael Jackson. You know, he sounded like he was out of it, right? It was just sad to listen to that. And then they pounded home the point. So you've got this patient. He's vulnerable. Something's up with Michael Jackson. What do? 2 days later, you're ordering more propofol, big amounts of it.
Yeah, that's odd. They said that Conrad Murray was weaning Michael Jackson off of propofol, but they were increasing the volumes of the orders over time. So that's just not consistent. They also started out saying that he was addicted to another benzodiazepine, actually an opioid pain reliever. I think it might have been Demerol that they said he was addicted to. But then he was providing them these additional anti-anxiety medications that would really not be smart to provide. So just their story is really like shady to me, and I just don't know how they're going to try to do it in any reasonable way to create doubt.
Okay, well, I was talking about opening statements. Let's look.
Perez's Santa Monica apartment.
All right. And again, Michael Barnes, let you weigh in on what, as we re-listen to David Walgren there in opening, just about, again, this is gold for them. They're laying it out there. Murray's lying to get this stuff.
Yes, it appears he is. I think that the one thing that they might be able to point to is that he knew, perhaps Tim Lopez did know he was sending it to a home. But even still, that doesn't create any sort of excuse for what Conrad Murray did, which is, you know, he was basically getting these quantities for thousands of patients and planning to use them for one particular patient. Now, I expect that we'll hear that he was stockpiling the medications for the trip to London. But even still, if he were weaning Michael Jackson off of these medications, why would he expect to be using them when they get to London down the road?
Excellent point there on that.
So, hey, playing it close to the vest right now.
Hey, Michael, who is that expert? Is there a father of propofol, a Dr. White, who will try and side with the defense and Murray to say, hey, small quantity of propofol could be safe?
You know, I was shocked to hear that they're trying to bring an expert forth to say that what Conrad Murray did was safe. Apparently, it's this American Society of Interventional Anesthesiologists. Now, I know that American Society of Anesthesiologists is very legitimate. I've not heard of the other organization, but given that this expert also works at a relatively credible university, I guess he's going to be so daring as to say that what Michael Jackson did was okay. They were really resourceful to be able to find someone who would say that. You know, just getting back to some of the other issues that I think that the prosecution is going to have to deal with, they're going to have to create some sort of story to explain how, indeed, Michael Jackson might have been already addicted to Demerol when Conrad Murray got him as a patient.
Guys, let's take a quick break again. Court about to resume. We're going to take you back to the courtroom in Los Angeles in just a moment. Keep it right here.